Okay, well, I think we're live, and gosh, I don't even know. It was hard enough when I was doing it daily to know what was actually happening. Now, who knows? Um, and gosh, what a week I had last week, lunatics. Uh, a million things happened, and uh, every single day there was like another thing that happened that made it really tough to do the show. And as a result, on top of everything else, oh, here we go. Um, on top of everything else, my iPhone bricked in the middle of the week, and all the Apple stores are closed, but the Apple stores aren't closed, but the Genius bars are closed. And I'm curious. Oh, yeah, it's not going to work. Uh, so they had to ship it somewhere, and I'm waiting to hear back if they're going to fix it or if I'm buying a new phone. So now I can't even start a watch party on my phone because I'm using an old iPhone 6 that I refuse to update. But it seems maybe losing a little momentum also affected the audience because now we just have a couple of viewers here. But let's start the show to do just a couple of minutes. Oh, gosh. Oh boy. Okay, this should work this time. Let's see what ends up happening. We'll actually hit the sound, but I have a feeling it's not going to work. We'll end up seeing what's happening. Well, welcome to Hot Lou Happy Hour. I'm your host, Lou Abramowski, or somewhat intermittently known as Hot Lou. So, man, yeah, like I was saying, it was a wild week last week for me. A lot of good stuff, a lot of unfortunate stuff, and now it's just become really hard. Like there's just a ton of things going on to make it hard to do the daily show. So with that, I just wanted to pop on and say, if it wasn't obvious last week, there is a little bit of a hiatus that's going to happen here, probably until September, maybe like a week or two into September to figure out exactly what's going on. I think there might end up being a show or two in the middle of that. But doing it daily is not going to work out until a couple of things just kind of get sorted out. And my co-host, Mike Loaf, and I also will be doing another season of the Hot Lou Show, which is the podcast, and it isn't news-driven. I'm resisting every urge in my body to talk about the 4 million news things that happened over the last 72 hours. But because obviously things are crazy. And I'll say my phone bricking last week was actually a little bit, and this has happened a couple times to me, where it was a little bit of a respite because I find myself in this one Facebook group way too often, and it is destructive to my mental health. Mike and I actually had a conversation about that a couple days ago. And I hear everybody talk about the social media and delete Facebook and that social media is bad for your mental health. And maybe I've like had little trickles of that happening in my life, but nothing as serious as like being a part of this group. And and not having my phone for a couple of days was nice, to not be doing that. And I expect, that to continue a little bit. So while I try to rock my iPhone 6 from 2013 or 14 or whatever it is. So like I said, managing the show on a daily basis has been challenging, but I also have to say, and I'd love for you lunatics to chime in here, the show really, and I joked about it a lot, but it evolved into something that I didn't intend and I don't really like. I didn't want it to be really a news show. News just happened to be the thing that we couldn't ignore, given pandemic stuff, you know, rioting, election, and the 4 million other crazy things happening all at once. And really, we wanted it to be an entertainment show. And particularly when I'm on my own, I have a really hard time making it entertaining. And it just ends up being talking about the news, which I get that some people want to hear it, and want to talk about that stuff. But the show evolved into just like this humorless, not entertaining, just like recap of the news and just sharing my opinion on it. And not that I don't want to share that, and not that a ton of you haven't reached out and told me that you really appreciated and enjoyed the show for that reason. And, you know, maybe I'll talk about that in a second here, but that I haven't found it to be what was this really healthy distraction for me at the beginning. Even though the pandemic was going on, I got to talk to my good friend Mike on a regular basis, and we did talk about very serious issues, but we got to do it in a way that was fun. And when you layer on several other topics and just cover the news, that was lost quite a bit. So the show evolved into something that I didn't really want it to turn into. So I think many of you have seen me kind of talk about how that struggling of like this pretend hotlou news network, which it's not that I don't want to talk about the news. I just don't want to make it the entirety of the show. So as I've spent some time, energy, and emotion on figuring out how to make it evolve back into what I had intended, you know, the hotlou show, the actual podcast, which I recommend you go subscribe. There's 30 some episodes worth tuning into that I think, and several of them are, I love listening to them, going back and listening to them. And so Mike and I are going to resume that for sure, but then figure out how to handle the live video hotlou happy hour thing and have it evolve back into what we're doing. And that might end up being a couple of shows in the midst of this hiatus, but just wanted to pop in here and see what the lunatics have to say about that, because I know many of you have appreciated talking about the news. So, you know, hearing a comment or two on, you know, your thoughts on that would be great. But, you know, we really want it to be entertainment first. And if that's really about the news and bringing that forward, that's fine. But I've had a couple of conversations with a couple of people, including my co-host, Hot Mike number 3, a couple times over the last few weeks, that sometimes I feel that I'm the only person like trying to go to, I even said it last night, you know, reading the actual White House transcripts or the Senate committee report on the NRA, or the actual complaint, all written in legalese. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only person in America reading those things. And one of the people I was having that conversation with responded with, you know, Lou, I sometimes think you are too, which is, can be a little bit frustrating. Hey there, loyal lunatic Linda checking in. Thanks for tuning in, Linda. And yeah, I said it last night actually, that you know, going through and like trying to avoid the news at all costs, but you know, maybe reading a headline or two to understand what's happening, but then actually going to find the source and like reading the actual reports from these things is something that, if anything can come out of the show, I'd encourage people to do that. And obviously the show notes are littered with links directly to the source on some of those things. So I would encourage all the lunatics to do the exact same. But in the meantime, thanks everybody for all your encouragement, tuning in and sharing the show and things like that. It's just become hard to manage with a ton of other things going on. Most of which are positive. Some of them are challenging, and some of them are downright destructive, like I said, with the participation in the group that I mentioned. So taking a little bit of a hiatus. I think you will see some content here over the next couple of weeks, but it's going to be smattering here and there of stuff. And then we'll resume some version of the show plus the hotlou show podcast, which you can get on Spotify. You can get it in Apple Podcasts. You can get it all over the Google Play, whatever I forget the name of the Google Play thing, or, whatever, wherever your favorite podcasts are found, you can find the Hotlou Show, and there's 30 some episodes there. So anyway, Lunatics, thanks for tuning in to this very boring Hotlou happy hour where I'm announcing a little bit of a hiatus, but I'll be back. It's just going to be a couple weeks, and then there'll be some intermittent content in between there in the meantime. So thanks, everybody. I hope everybody has a great day, a great happy Lose Day tomorrow, and we'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.